about to receive a spiritual gift activation in your Akashic records with the tree spirits. So you're going to want to save this video because it's quite lengthy. You can listen now or when you have time and energy. I just want to give you a heads up. And this is a part of a bigger activation series. If you want to connect with the mermaid, phoenix, dragon, unicorn, fairy, and elf, alongside of your inner children to support your channeling and psychic abilities. You can find that in my bio or in the comments under spiritual gift activation series. So we'll go ahead and meet our tree spirit friends. Hello and welcome back. Today we're connecting with the tree spirit and we're about to get real philosophical up in here. It was a very poetic type of channeling from our tree friends. And so I'm very excited to share everything that came through. So we'll go ahead and get into it. When I went to your energy field, we were at Hogwarts. I'm going to show you a picture. Okay. This is from Harry Potter, the book series and the movie series. If you have not seen it before, it's a world full of witches and wizards and warlocks. It's a very magical, fantastical place. Okay, we have the Quidditch in the castle that they reside in here. You asked the tree spirits, what are we doing here? And the tree said, we are immersing ourselves in magic. And you said, do we have to go to Hogwarts to do that? And the tree said, just go with it. The tree was very sassy. And you and I were looking at each other and trying to figure out where we were exactly within Hogwarts. And I said, well, it seems that we're in the castle, but we do need to head outside because obviously we're connecting with the tree spirit today and they are outside. And so I asked you, what do you think the best path would be to do that, to get outside? And you said probably a tunnel. Like either tunneling our way out or finding a tunnel that is already built. And I said, okay, well, what about a door? One that you can just hinge or pivot open. I said, unless you want to crawl through the tunnel. And what I thought was really funny, because you and I were kind of bantering back and forth. What I thought was funny is you said, oh, well, it doesn't have to be that kind of tunnel that you're like crawling on the ground, you know, like you would underneath a house or something like that. And I said, oh, well, what does the tunnel look like to you? Or what could it potentially be? This is when we saw a tunnel of lights appear that we could walk through. Look how beautiful. I was like, oh, that's a much better representative of a tunnel. I agree. I said, what do you think all of the lights represent? Because, of course, everything is symbolic of something. There is a reasoning for everything that is coming forward. And you said new possibilities, kind of like timelines or potentialities that could happen, if you will. I said, this is going to be a spiritual gift in creating portals. Okay, a spiritual gift in creating portals, which we're going to get deeper into that in a little bit. We got some other things we're going to discuss here first. I said trees are portals into Earth's history. Trees themselves are portals into Earth's history. They can also take you to the crystalline core of Earth, Mother Gaia herself, connect you with her, and into the ethereal network of trees. Okay, we're going to discuss that in a minute. In more in depth, the ethereal network. This is when the tree spirit started talking to us and said, you can work with tree bark like a second skin, a sensory interface. So I want you to envision that you are standing in front of a tree, whatever tree that you like. And the bark is molding onto your own skin. Almost like you would see somebody put on like medieval armor. But in this case it's of natural substance. Well, I guess metal is natural substance, but you know what I'm saying. Okay, you're wearing it as an additional layer of self, almost like your light body or your auric field, but this has more tangibility to it, more like kind of physical strength and durability. So right now you are wearing a second skin of tree bark. And the reason that we want to do this is because different trees support us with different things. When you are wearing their tree bark, obviously we're doing that etherically. Unless you want to get a necklace or something to wear with a piece of tree bark, that would be super cool. The tree would love to walk around with you through this existence. But while you are wearing the second skin of whatever, or I don't like saying second skin. wearing the tree bark, you are going to be able to not only embody the energetics of that tree and the medicine and wisdom that they have to offer, but you're also interfacing with yourself and reality and people and experiences and opportunities through the lenses of that tree. It's kind of like if you were connecting with your inner children and your higher self or different incarnations. They're all you, but they're different consciousness level and they have their own perspectives and experiences. So you and the tree are one and the same, but you're different entities. You're different beings. And when you are working with spirit animals, trees, cosmic beings, whomever, at the end of the day, it's you, but it's a different version of you looking back at yourself. So when you are working with the tree bark in your auric field, your light body, it's adding wisdom, knowledge, and insights from a different perspective. Much like I'm doing here in this spiritual gift activation. Okay, so I could channel messages through, but now I'm adding magical creatures into it. And then I'm adding your energy field into it from your inner children as well. So there's multitudes. It's kind of like a optometrist lens that they put down over your eyes. That's what we have going here in this activation in and of itself, if that helps you with envisioning what I'm talking about with the tree bark. Then we're going to go over a couple different examples of our tree friends and what they can support us with. And again, these are just a few. So if we were going to etherically wear the oak tree bark, it helps with boundaries, inner strength, and ancestral guidance. The pine tree helps with respiratory healing and processing grief. The cherry blossom helps with embodying divine feminine energy, rebirth, and emotional release. The birch tree supports with new beginnings and inner child healing. Now, obviously, they help with a lot more things individually. Those are just a few examples. And we'll get into how to figure out what those things are. This is an actual healing modality, okay, for yourself or for other persons. And being able to take the tree bark, I don't say take, work with the tree bark in order to infuse it into your auric field or your light body. So you can do this for yourself, or you can do it for other persons, your family members, friends, or clients. So what we want to do is figure out what type of energy are we trying to bring in, or what type of energy are we trying to release, and then find the trees that are associated with those healings. There's a couple different ways that you can do this. The first one is simply looking at pictures on Google or on Pinterest at different types of trees and getting an energetic read on them, a feeling from them if you're very intuitive based. If you don't necessarily need to research things, then you can just connect in and get the vibe of the tree. Or you can Google, what does the oak tree support with? Spiritually, emotionally, physically, mentally. What does the pine tree help with? What do the redwoods help with? What do palm trees help with? And you're going to get the collective consciousness understanding. Okay, that is on the 3D plane. Or you can go in and specifically ask the tree's consciousness, because what you get on Google from the collective consciousness, all of us together kind of inputting that information, might be one answer. But then if you actually go in and speak to a pecan tree, you speak to a pecan tree, say, hey, could you tell me what you support or what you can support me with in life? Or what is your collective consciousness type of healings? Because like with anything, you have your own perspectives and experiences. So maybe the pecan tree can help you with hyper specific things for you, but then as a more generalized scape, there are certain things that it can support with releasing or bringing in. So again, looking at pictures of trees or going out in nature, that's even better. Okay, I know we don't have access to all trees, obviously, because we live in different regional spaces, but looking at pictures or going outside and being around the trees that you want to connect with, going on Google and specifically asking questions about said trees, or going into meditation and then asking the tree directly. It depends on what level that you're at with your channeling. If you are going to go into meditation to ask a tree directly, I still recommend looking up a picture, because that's going to imprint into your subconscious and your psyche and it's going to be easier for you to bring it up in the astral and the ethereal planes. The more that you do this, the easier it is going to be for you to embody different tree barks, because they're going to be encoded into your energy field. So you can either work with them for yourself or project them into other people's energy fields. The tree spirit that we were working with called you the tree whisperer. Okay, the tree whisperer. That's more of a 3D terminology for this spiritual gift. There are 2 movies that I recommend. The Secret Life of Trees, which I'm going to put that in the resources down here, and so you can go find it in your own time. The Secret Life of Trees and Fantastic Fungi. Okay, Fantastic Fungi is about mushrooms and the consciousness of them. However, mushrooms and trees have very similar structural systems underneath the ground, and they both work in unison with one another. Okay, so they're kind of a symbiotic relationship. And in Fantastic Fungi, it talks about trees a little bit, but it's going to help you with the overall concept of these beings being from a higher dimensional plane and having their own language and working with one another. So I really recommend watching both of those films. The tree spirit looked at us and said, trees are caregivers. They protect and nurture all of the animals, plants, fungi, and insects underneath their branches, leaves, and root systems. That includes being caregivers of us, okay, because we expel carbon dioxide and they take that in and then they output oxygen. So we have a symbiotic relationship with them as well. And then obviously we love the plants, animals, and the insects that they are also taking care of. So we're a collective unit with one another, but trees take on this kind of overarching caregiver of everyone here on planet Earth. The tree spirit wanted to ask you a question. How are you like a tree? Who is underneath your branches and is in your root systems and being protected by your leaves in the shade, kind of like that mama hen energy with all her baby chickens. Okay, I'm sure that you are also a representator of people, animals, plants, whatever that might be for you. You are also a representator of tree caregiving energy. These are some words of wisdom from our tree friend. So I'm going to read through it, and then we're going to go back through it again so I can dissect a couple parts of it. So it is time for your branches to extend past the points where you have been, over the creek and through the woods to yondering neighborhoods. Every one of us is like the ring of a tree. There's no place I'd rather be. You are part of the tree of life. Even in the darkness, you come to life. And when the sun directs its light, you surely will take flight. And you said, wow, what a beautiful poem. So we're going to go through this again because there's some deeper symbolism in this poem. It is time for your branches to extend past the points where you have been. So this is your growth and evolution. Time to step outside of our comfort zone, to showcase to ourselves what we are capable in this next level of life, in this next identity of self. Over the creek and through the woods to yondering neighborhoods. So what that means is part of the next leg of your journey is participating in more communal experiences. So that might be you enfolding more soul tribe members into your life, creating resources for the collective consciousness, just being a little bit more immersed in the unity of humanity. Taking all the skills and talents and abilities that you have gleaned thus far and enjoying them with others. Every one of us is like the ring of a tree. There's no place I'd rather be. So, you know, when you open up a tree and the rings within show the age, the tree in this scenario is all of us throughout history. Like humanity or human beings or plants and animals and insects, right? Just layers of history. But then also you and your past versions and your future versions. So the rings of the tree are your inner children and your teenagers and you in your young adulthood and now, and as you level up in life with your age. And then there's no place I'd rather be. The tree was saying, what a beautiful honor to see you grow, not only collectively, but also individually. Like, that is a huge honor for them to be able to witness your life. You are a part of the tree of life. Even in the darkness, you come to life. So much like we were talking about before, how you are the tree and the tree is you. You are separate beings, but you are the same. Okay, you are Mother Gaia's children. The part about the darkness, even in the darkness, you come to life. So this looks like an acorn falling off an oak tree and then being submerged into the ground. And even though there is no sunlight coming in, it is still going to thrive. And when it comes out, like the little stem and the sunlight is directed towards it, it starts to grow its branches upwards. So this is the natural cycles of life. This is when we are proverbially in these low spaces. We had a lot of shadow work and trauma and challenges and things that we're going through, but it's ultimately for a growth and evolution, and we always come out on the other side. Okay, I don't want to say better necessarily, but more evolved, right? But it's understanding that that is a part of Mother Nature's cycles that we participate in. Like, that it's exactly how it's supposed to be. Okay, death and rebirth. The acorn falls from the oak tree and then grows into a new one, and then the acorn falls and then grows into a new one, and then we all collectively are in this big forest with one another, supporting, okay, and communing. When the sun directs its light, you surely will take flight. That was the other piece of that. You're gonna be in the darkness for a little while, the proverbial darkness, the void, hermit mode, but then on the other side of that, you always come out grander. Reaching your branches up towards the sunlight, and then you're able to, you know, drop acorns for other oak trees to grow. This is when we heard the song, "The ants go marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah. The ants go marching one by one, hurrah, hurrah." And we saw all of these teeny tiny ants that were walking on the tree spirit's roots that we were speaking to, and we said they seem to be making their way into the tree. If you've ever seen a piece of a tree kind of like hollowed out, it almost looks like a fairy portal. Or like an owl will be sitting in there, or little bugs. And we said, oh, okay, well, let's follow them in there. So both of us shrunk down really teeny tiny and got in line with the ants walking in. And then you and I were actually talking to an ant that was standing up on its hind legs like a person would be, and they were just communicating with us. And I said, oh, this is giving very much A Bug's Life. Okay, if you have seen this movie before. If you haven't, highly suggest. One, it is a fantastic movie, but it will help you integrate these messages even deeper, because we're about to go on a whole segment about ants, which I realized that was an unintended pun because, you know, ants have segmented bodies. So while we're talking to the ant, we asked them, where are we? Because this is a different dimensional space. Yes, we entered into the tree, but we were in a completely different location. And the ant said, you are in Ant City. I said, all right. That is very on brand. Animals and plants. Okay, animals and plants. When you get a little bit deeper into shamanism, you can actually go to the dimension from where the animal is from. Like, yes, there are 3D tangible versions of them here, but then there's also dimensional spaces with all of them within, okay, as a collective unit. So today we were in the ant dimension, and we portaled there through the tree, and we were able to speak to them in a verbalized language by moving into this dimensional space. Now we're going to talk about what ants represent as spirit animals in shamanism, and why they're coming up in your channel message today with our tree spirit friend. They symbolize purposeful action. Purposeful action. Every ant knows its role. Ants remind us to align with our soul assignments and trust the micro movements. They represent patience and long-term vision. They build massive colonies, one grain at a time. Unity and collective consciousness. Ants thrive because of cooperation. They speak to us about connection, harmony, and communal evolution. Ants are earth frequency beings. They are sensitive to terrain, vibrations, and the paths beneath their feet. They are allies in mapping physical and energetic landscapes. This is a part that I would recommend re-listening to because there's some greater symbolism about how this correlates to you in your own life, not just on an individual scale, but also a collective scale. Now we're going to talk about the symbiotic relationship that ants and tree spirits have with one another. Ants and trees are co-creators in the spiritual ecosystem. When you work with tree spirits, ants often appear as messengers or spiritual stewards. I don't know if you've been around a lot of trees, but there are always ants. And they are here to give us these beautiful messages. Ants clean bark, remove parasites, and protect trees from harmful insects. Spiritually, they represent beings who maintain the integrity of your energy body, especially if you work with tree bark as a second skin. So when we were talking about that modality in the beginning, the healing modality, working with the ant spirit is going to be really beneficial to help keep your auric and light body clear. And then also your physical body as well, to come in and do some excavation work. Ants highlight the sacredness of the small. Where tree spirits are ancient and vast, ants remind you that tiny, deliberate rituals matter. Now, when I say rituals, sometimes as, spiritual beings will be way up here in the ethers and cosmos, okay, in our multidimensional awareness. That's the trees, okay, the cosmic and the galactic. The ants are more representors of our human experience in the 3D plane. Both of them are just as important as one another. So spiritual teachings we love. The rituals that the ants were mentioning were washing your dishes, doing laundry, cleaning out your car, laughing, playing, having fun, enjoying your existence while you're here, exercising, eating healthy, and drinking water. Okay, taking care of your physical vessel. This is an example of being a human versus being source. You are one and the same, but it is two different experiences. And one is not better than the other or more important than the other. Okay, it's about finding balance between the two. We were asking the tree spirit how we could better develop working with them. And they mentioned placing an offering of fruits, veggies, nuts, or seeds for their children, which includes you. So they're saying that if you want to, you don't have to, obviously, but if you feel called to do so, you can leave nuts, seeds, fruits, and veggies for any of the little insects, animals, fungi, anything of that nature underneath near the tree roots, because that is going to help with those symbiotic relationships. And it's also the symbiotic relationship with you, because all of the plants, animals, and insects also help us as humans thrive, and vice versa. And so they're saying, oh, you can feed my children if you would like, and then ultimately that's going to feed you in return. You can also place your hand on a physical tree and say, I honor your wisdom and ask permission to receive your teachings. I honor your wisdom and ask permission to receive your teachings. Another exercise is going into a park or going into a forest. If you can, obviously, you don't have to do this, but if you have that available to you, is going out to the forest while you're on a hike or a walk and paying special attention to the guardian of that space. There's going to be a tree that is the overall caretaker. It's usually the biggest tree or the widest tree. It's a tree that's been around for a very long time. And if you are conscientious of this and you're out looking for it, you will find it. I started doing this a couple years ago. I immediately knew every single time, and that's a beautiful conversation that you can go have with that specific tree spirit. Now we're going to swing it back around to the spiritual gift that we first started talking about with portals, trees being portals, but then you also creating portals. Each tree is a living node in the vast mycelial and crystalline network. Some trees act as archives or archivists, some as guardians, and some as doorways. Okay, I'm going to read this again. Each tree is a living node in the vast mycelial and crystalline network. Some act as archivists, kind of think of like a librarian, okay, or a historian, filing system of history. Some as guardians and some as doorways. Much like us, different trees take on different roles. And you as an individual could be all three. And trees can be all three. But we tend to be more proficient in one than another. So that's something that you can actually ask the tree spirit that you are working with as well. Do you function in your role more like archives, a doorway into different dimensional spaces, or are you a caretaker guardian? When you are working with trees, whether that is looking at pictures, working with them outside, asking Google what they support with, or you're connecting directly with the tree consciousness, you can ask them, where is the tree pulling me towards? Where is the tree pulling me towards on their actual physical self? Maybe it is up the trunk. Okay, going up towards the sky. This is higher realms, galactic and cosmic connections. Maybe it is in a knot or a hollow. So like we talked about previously, where there'll be a hole in a tree and like a little owl could be sitting in there, or a squirrel or a bird, or you see knots that are kind of protruding off of the tree. Or like sometimes you'll see an eye on there looking at you. Those are representative of wisdom capsules or memories from history. So what I mean by a wisdom capsule is when we walked into the hollow of the tree and then connected with the ants, and then we were able to learn what ants mean in spirituality and shamanism and how they relate to our life. That is representative of an archivist tree. It's saying, hey, I have all this information capsulized for you. You step into my energy field and then you will learn. You can do the same thing with trees in history. They have been here for ever, especially some of our bigger trees like the redwoods. And so they're going to have a lot of memories of history encapsulated within them that they can share with you. Or maybe you're getting pulled down to the earth near their root systems or underneath the ground in those roots. That's representative of ancestral medicine in the lower realms within shamanism, or connections with Mother Gaia herself. When you are talking to a tree spirit, you can ask them to show you a prehistoric version of Earth, a parallel realm, a different dimension, or speaking to the Council of Trees. Okay, now the Council of Trees. I have given a couple readings to people who are tree guardians themselves that have been so in other incarnations, and what I have gleaned from that and what this tree was confirming as well. We have trees here on Earth. Okay, obviously. But there are also trees in other planetary systems, in other dimensions and parallel realms, and you can actually portal, like astral project and astral travel through trees here on Earth to get to other dimensional systems and planetary systems with trees that are there as well. That's a little bit more of advanced work. So we're going to talk about how to kind of step our way towards that, but I want you to hear that it's a potentiality. And don't limit yourself. You might be able to do it right now. You need to connect with the tree and say, where can you take me in the ethers and the astral to a different plane, or a different, different plane. A different tree out there in the cosmos. That's why I recommend watching Fantastic Fungi, because if you are not familiar with the mycelium network yet, that explains it very well. All of the mushrooms are interconnected underneath the ground, and so are trees. Okay, and they actually speak to one another. That's the Secret Life of Trees explains that they have their own type of languaging system. When you are in a forest and a tree has given birth to another tree, let's say you have a big oak tree and it drops a bunch of acorns, and the birds like pick them up and then drop them elsewhere. That tree can be very far away from the mom tree. But if that tree ends up getting sick, her little, I guess you would call it sapling, she will send nutrients through the underground root system to her baby tree to help it grow. That's the languaging that we're talking about in the interconnectedness under the mycelium network. That works on the ethereal and astral planes as well, with trees throughout existence. So that's why you can astral travel between them and portal through them to different planes of dimensions. Now let's talk about an easier way to teach yourself how to get there, because that's really heady and theoretical. So we're gonna bring it back here to the earth plane. Okay, practice astral projecting and etheric travel here first. It's a little bit more tangible to our human experience. So you are able to jump between ley lines through the underground tree systems here on Earth. Obviously, other planets have their own ley line systems. We're just talking about the one here right now. Okay, so if you are not familiar with what ley lines are, I'm going to explain that now. Ley lines are invisible energy pathways that crisscross the Earth like a spiritual grid. If you've seen a picture of kind of crystallized intersecting lines depicting the Earth, ley lines, okay? You can think of them like the Earth's meridian systems. We talked about that before in the previous activation, where we have our own meridian system that connects our organs, our brain, our skin, our chakras, everything about us. It's where our chi or life force energy flows through. Trees have their own system like that. Just like energy flows through our bodies, energy flows through the planet. So ley lines are the meridian lines of the Earth. Where multiple ley lines intersect, okay, at the meeting point, the energy is especially strong. These places often hold sacred sites, like the pyramids, Stonehenge, Machu Picchu, and old temples. Many believe that trees, especially ancient ones, grow near these ley lines because the trees naturally absorb, anchor, and transmit that energy, the strong energy vortex. A couple different places, Sedona and Mount Fuji. What you can essentially do is to go into meditation and ask one of the tree spirits to astrally project you through the ley lines to one of these places out there. The pyramids, Sedona, Machu Picchu. Okay, back in history, there's going to be trees that are or were close to those locations, and you can travel through not only the ley lines but the trees network in order to pop out there. Currently, almost like you would be a remote viewing, but you're actually able to walk around, you know, in your mind, or you can go back in history. And if you can go back in history, that means you can go forward as well. So that's a little bit more research that you can do on your end, like where the ley lines intersecting, what sacred sites have been throughout history, what trees are there currently, or you can look at pictures on Google of like trees that are near those sites and spaces, and then connect with a tree spirit here, okay, on this plane or in your mind's eye, and get them to take you there. Because that's a little bit more tangible to our experience, and you know relatively what those places and spaces look like or feel like, what the vibe is, that's going to set you up for success when you want to travel out further into the cosmos to different dimensions and planetary systems where those trees are, and using the same foundational concepts of traveling through ley lines and the mycelium network of trees. To summarize, we have the healing modality of encoding our energy field with different types of tree bark, either for ourselves or for others, working with trees as archivists, like librarians or historians, as caregiver guardians, or doorways or portals. Okay, we did talk about a spiritual gift of creating portals yourself. That's a little bit more of advanced work. That's why we are working with the tree spirit, so we can witness firsthand how those functionalities work with another being. So that's going to set you up for success, for you to be able to do that on your own in the future. And lastly, astral traveling. Okay, to different ley line sites and via other trees, whether that is here on Earth or different dimensions and planetary systems. A couple different synchronicities that you might have experienced on our journey today that were deeply in resonance. Starting off in Hogwarts, in the castle, in Harry Potter worlds, the tunnel of lights and new potentialities, seeing the ants, much like A Bug's Life, and learning about them, or working with tree bark to encode into your energetic fields. And we want to thank the beautiful tree spirit, all the tree spirits, for lighting our journey today on the spiritual gift activation. And I will see you tomorrow, where we are going to be connecting with the elf spirit. Hello and welcome back. I would love to hear in the comments what your biggest takeaways were, if there's any synchronicities that really stuck out to you. And if you would like to experience 6 more activations for your spiritual gifts in your Akashic records with the mermaid, dragon, elf, unicorn, fairy, and phoenix. You can find that in my bio under Spiritual Gift Activation series. I love you so much, and I hope you have the most magical day.